I did. I just took care of it.
Thank you so much.
Recording in progress.
Thank you, Justin.
Sorry. All right, we're going to begin. Good evening and welcome to the March 8th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast, on cable channel 15 and streamed online by FCTV. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. I'd like to thank our staff for their continued support to this commission and their diligence assisting applicants. At the moment, we're missing one commissioner, but we have quorum, so we're moving forward. And welcome Mark Hasbrzek tonight. Remind you guys that for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time. Please refrain from speaking over each other. Also, all votes will be done by roll call. When I call your name, please state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. Link and further instructions are located on the agenda. Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project can proceed as proposed. However, a positive determination means that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. Therefore, as an applicant, you'll want to hear a negative determination. All right, first up tonight is other business. ATV and dirt bike usage, damage to town 300 committee and Rod and Gun Club properties. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am going to promote Jessica Rittenauer, the Executive Director of the 300 Committee, and A.D. Colburn, a member of the Rod and Gun Club. Both the 300 Committee and the Rod and Gun Club had written to the board a month or so ago with their concerns regarding ATV and dirt bike use on both their properties and town properties. I know the town has, and I think Betsy can say a few words, and Mark, about some of the damage that we've seen specifically at the Coonamessett River Reservation and the activities that are going on there. There's been an uptick in usage and damage in the past couple of years, and it's something that we felt the board should be aware of. And there's been a request, I think specifically by the Rod and Gun Club, that the Concom reach out to the Board of Selectmen and ask for additional enforcement in this area. Betsy, do you want to say a few words? I had your pictures up and then my email just went kind of wonky, so I'm trying to pull those pictures up again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jennifer. So Rod and Gun Club, of course, actively engage in the conservation projects throughout the town, pollinator gardens and the Child's River restoration. And as you know, we've encountered a number of dirt bikers and four-wheelers out there. Some of them crossing the river, creating erosion, but some of it is just also public nuisance. And in my experience, I mean, I was there one day in December with a member of the mosquito control group. The two of us parked vehicles side by side when the four-wheeler came in and proceeded to do donuts right next to my car. Right next to my car, I got out and wagged my finger and said, "No, you can't do this." And the guy just did a couple more donuts and blew off out of there. The other day, I was out there and a couple of guys on dirt bikes came. So they're coming essentially, we believe, from Mashpee down what's called either the Browns Road or Milford Road, adjacent to the restoration project. And they come through there. Our understanding is that there's some drug activity going on. And then there's kids on bikes or whatever, but let's just, I'll try to be succinct here, cut to the chase and say that on the four-wheeler episode, I called Falmouth Police. 3 cruisers arrived in fairly short order, and the four-wheeler came back again, cross Carriage Shop Road, and they went off in pursuit. But these guys really are pretty cagey, and they just take alternate routes and evade it. So I guess my comment is to say that what we would really dearly appreciate is reinstating DNR's ability to police on these properties. And what you don't want is Joe Public, myself included, to be the person that's trying to intercede in these instances. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Jen, if I may, anybody that's going to speak, wait until you're asked. Secondly, anybody that's going to be a participant, turn your video on. And we can't get involved in the police activities. We're going to, as we said, talk about writing a letter to the selectmen, but we, as a commission, can't get involved in petitioning the police or should MES be doing it, whatever. So just understand it's not that we don't want to, it's beyond our purview. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Colburn. I do have some pictures of some recent trail damage taken by Betsy. If you'd like to see them, and if not, I know Betsy would like to say a few words, as does possibly maybe Mark, on some of the activities that they've witnessed out there. Like I said, especially at the Coonamessett. We've experienced vandalism out there on signage. We've experienced vandalism on the bridges because the motorized vehicles going over the bridges are making the boards bounce up. So it's the town has invested countless hours. Volunteers have done countless hours, both at the Coonamessett and the Child's River Project over at the Rod and Gun Club. And we just need to address it somehow. And I think a letter from the commission to the select board requesting increased enforcement in this matter is an appropriate response at this point. Betsy?
So, Jen has some pictures of this. So as far as the boardwalk goes, this has been a problem since especially Swift's Crossing. People will come from the Sandwich side. They've made trails down, and one of the trails been made quite large, actually, into in the lower part, into a road, a dirt road. And in addition to dirt bikes, we're getting golf carts, large golf carts, and four-wheel drive. And part of the problem is we've had some dumping. Some has been dumping of vegetative debris, but also of construction debris. And Mark especially with DPW has really stayed on top and cleaned a lot of this stuff up, but it's like you get one area cleaned up and then there's another dumping. and the other thing is, like to and from the boardwalk area, the bikes often will erode into the trail, and then it rains, and so you have additional erosion. And also some of the dirt bikes are going across and then on the public roads, and I don't believe the dirt bikes are legally allowed on public roads. So it's a problem. I get calls and get stopped when I'm out there because people are concerned with safety also. And Jen has some of the pictures of what I just mentioned.
I can share one screen right now of the road, Mr. Chairman, if you let me share the screen.
Yeah.
It's got some scale. We have Betsy's adorable pups to help us give scale. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is the road, and this is coming from, what's that road, Mark?
Tom Parker.
Oh, no, it's coming. Well, Sandwich, it's a road that's off Sandwich. Tanglewood, I think.
Tanglewood, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that's coming off of Tanglewood.
And
Southern
the other
end,
thing, the other thing that was there is whoever did that took I think at one point, Mark or somebody from DPW put a big log across there, and they dragged it from there and put it across the walking trail.
I have a picture of that as well. So, Mr. Chairman, I just, unless Jessica, would you like to say a few words? Okay.
Thank you. I was having trouble getting the mute button off. Thanks, Jen, and thanks to you all for taking the time to put this on your agenda. The 300 committee, we raised this issue and had a meeting with Jen and Mark quite some time ago, and certainly we learned that we all had some similar concerns about the conservation land and issues going on with the enforcement. I think the main items that the 300 committee wants to put forward, and we understand having to follow the protocols of Concom raising the issue to the select board. But certainly with 300 committee-owned properties, and as we've learned from the Rod and Gun Club, their properties, we're involved in over 2,000 acres of town land. This issue is going on really throughout town. I asked our stewardship director, Alexandra Zolo, she wasn't able to be here this evening, but she shared Shallow Pond Woodlands, certainly sections of the Moraine Trail, parts of that are owned by the town, parts are owned by the 300 committee, the Dryvogel property. And we absolutely share your concerns about the Coonamessett Greenway. The investment in these properties, the conservation values are essential to protect, and the lack of enforcement is extremely concerning for a number of reasons. The damage to the properties, the safety of people that are there using these properties, walking the trails and using these parcels that we're promoting, and wanting people to be able to connect with the user experience of having the dirt bikes and ATVs is very problematic. So we share the concerns, and we want to stay in touch on this issue and help in any way we can with communication with town management and the select board. And again, just appreciate your care and concern in putting this on your agenda and having this discussion. And like I said, we're happy to stay in touch on this issue.
Thanks, Jules. Mark, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just a little bit. I'll try not to repeat because I think everybody pretty much summed it up. All I'll say is, especially on the properties really are impacted now on a constant basis are Dryvogel, Lower Coonamessett, lesser extent to Upper Coonamessett and the Moraine Trail. There's also a bunch of water department lands that are, you look at some of the new trails and damage, it's unbelievable. But in particular over at Dryvogel, Jen was talking about damage. It's not only damage to, they're creating new trails, they're widening new trails. You know, there's the erosion problem, but they're also going through, you know, restored areas for sand plain grassland that we planted out there. We spent, I don't know, about $5,000 5 years ago to do that. And, you know, to see a lot of the plants wiped out, it's pretty, you know, depressing. And like Betsy was saying too, sign destruction, trash dumping. And it's just not easy too to deal with, because, you know, we block some of these trails. I mean, I'm sure Jessica can testify too. You block the trails, and you know, we had DPW put these massive trunks, you know, I'm not kidding, like probably 3 feet wide. And in less than a year, you know, they were cut up, moved to the side, and, you know, business as usual. Likewise in some areas of the lower Coonamessett, you know, these things that we had blocked off are just now cleared and, you know, eroding even more, and, you know, trash is getting dumped. So, yeah, it's a big problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. All right, we'll take some commissioner comments before. Courtney?
You know, the push to create and preserve open space in Falmouth is a tremendous goal. And I think the 300 committee and everybody else who's worked on getting more and more open space is to be commended. But what we're dealing now with is the one of the perhaps unforeseen consequences of having all of this open land. And I think what we need to do is, certainly the Conservation Commission, given its authority and so forth, is not in a position to dispatch Jennifer or somebody else out there with a pop gun in order to keep all of the miscreants out of there. But I think it's incumbent on perhaps a 300 committee working with conservation to come up with a plan that monitors these lands. And then obviously it means that you've got to take that to the selectmen. You've got to have an article in town meeting. You've got to get the finance committee on board with it, because it'll cost money, because you're going to have, it ultimately is going to have to be a physical presence there in order to have a deterrent. And that's a sad commentary, but it's a reality. And, you know, very likely the vast majority of these people that are riding around on dirt bikes and ATVs and so forth are, you know, high school kids and that sort of stuff. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter. There has to be a plan, because essentially we've created, in a sense, an attractive nuisance. And now we've got to figure out how to control it.
All right, what I got out of that was Courtney's volunteering to be the cop on site.
Right.
He'll be
Well,
rotating
I'm already
days
the
at
resident
different
curmudgeon,
locations.
so I'll go there with a pop gun
Okay.
or my flashlight and my Mr. Peepers badge. But seriously, I think that there needs to be a plan for managing these lands and making sure that this stuff doesn't happen. And that isn't our authority. That's going to become a policing thing or whatever, or Department of Natural Resources, but it means that money's got to be allocated to do it, and people assigned to it, and all of those systems put in place, you know, remote cameras and all that kind of stuff, because if you don't have that in place, it's just going to go on and there's nothing you can do about it.
All right, Maury.
Just short and sweet. If everybody looks at the newspaper, the amount of enforcement we have in this town has declined because we have a shortage of policemen. There's a shortage of enforcement everywhere in this country. And this is, and I'm sure in their world, not the highest priority, unfortunately. But when you said it's been escalating back in the day, there used to be, Otis they had their ATV guys out. Eversource used to police their power lines. So there was a lot more policing, and now we just don't have the resources to do it. So I know Courtney thinks it's, you know, we can go to town meeting or whatever, but it's gonna be a tough thing to do. And I think probably thinking about it and coming up with a good solution before you go to the police or whatever. But ask the select board to support this and come up with a solution, but it's not gonna be a quick and easy one.
Yeah, I think that's a good start.
Mhm.
Betsy?
I want to make two comments. One is, you might think it's teenagers, but it's primarily not teenagers who
No,
are
it's not.
responsible. Teenagers always get dumped on. That is not what the issue is. And the second is, I do want to commend the police. The few times we've had to call the police for immediate things, just like AD said, they've been very responsive, and they, as Maury said, you know, they're limited too, but they've actually been quite responsive.
All right. Anyone else? Courtney, don't be
Yeah, no,
repetitive,
it's
please.
the police have been absolutely responsive, and I agree with you, Betsy, but the problem is, you know, what is needed is to come up with an actual plan and budget for it, and actually probably hire people to make sure that it's patrolled, or establish the systems to prevent this or reduce it. And, you know, right now, there's no resources that are allocated to that. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And that's, we're just gonna start that tonight with this. Steve?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure you understood that I support efforts to try to enforce this. I think the barriers that I've observed that have been removed are removable. I mean, with big boulders, other kinds of short-term alternatives, but there should be a plan. I don't, this act of enforcement, I think, is unlikely. I agree with Maury. So let's try something.
Agreed. Kevin?
Easy enough to pass the buck. I think ultimately the issue will have to be pushed up to something like the state. Someone with a budget and the ability to spread the budget over a large enough area that it's not a huge chunk for any one individual or small town, but having DNR or someone with both the authority and the ability to do it, it seems to be the solution. I don't think we can just go to the selectmen and expect them to hire a half a dozen policemen and assign them to the conservation lands, much as it might be a nice dream. Thank you.
No, but you have a good point, because in this letter, Jen, can we, request that the board of the select board petition the state for some guidance or some help, with DCR or something like that. I don't know, just
It's something we
to that
can
effect.
explore.
Yeah. Okay, Melissa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just hoping that maybe tonight we can come out of here with an agreement, at least to get the Rod and Gun Club and the 300 committee and the Concom to get some kind of ad hoc group going to start hashing out ideas as to how we can move forward with the town and get some kind of plan and budget drawn up to see what's going on, whether it's for, wildlife cameras to get the wildlife on their ATVs, or, even just to pass regulations, with signs that say, unauthorized motor vehicles not allowed, to at least get it out there, so that at least some people might be deterred from moving forward. And yeah, I know it's a pervasive issue in a lot of places. People are constantly trying to keep ATVs and mini bikes and things like that off of their properties. And we're going to, like Kevin said, we're probably going to need some help from higher up as well. But my guess is that some town somewhere has a plan that we could learn from. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Jen,
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman, other than I would request that the commission. What's going on? Hang on one second, Mr. Chairman, somebody has their hand.
yeah, I should ask you if there's anything in the public chat
Raised.
function also.
Oh, Jessica had her hand raised.
Jess?
Yeah, just quickly, wanted to mention the Marine Environmental Services Division. I think it was noted earlier, but there certainly was an enforcement function that DNR officers were able to do, and that seems to have, that needs to be part of the conversation, I think, going forward, of the role of Marine Environmental Services and their authority to help with this sort of thing. So whether that's, conversations with Greg Fraser, Peter Johnson Staub, I think that's a really important part of the overall conversation, role and authority of MES. Thank you.
All right, so what, Courtney?
It just all comes down to money, and I think at some point the town has to set aside some money for maintaining and supporting these lands. Then you can hire DNR or the state police or more Falmouth cops or even me to stand out there with my dog whistle. But it's it all comes down to money, and I would support it. A budget item and a plan. So you guys come up with a plan and a budget, and we should put it in as an article and campaign like hell for it.
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to be looking for tonight is a motion to put a written request into the select board that would kind of encompass all the different things we've just spoken about. Did I miss anything, Jen?
No, I think with a number of things were touched on tonight, and I think I can incorporate those into a letter.
Okay.
We do have some chats if you'd like me to read them, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, but again, I just want to remind everyone, it's not for us to get in the middle of the police, the MES, state police, whatever. It's we can ask for that assistance, but that's all we can do.
Correct.
Just so again, it's not a matter of we don't want to. Hold on, Melissa. It's not a matter of we don't want to. It's a matter of it's just beyond our purview. It's not in our jurisdiction. Melissa.
Thank you. I just wanted to tag on to Courtney's comment about funding and thinking that there's probably grant monies out there somewhere to also help us support these issues.
Well,
Thank you.
all right, folks. Anybody?
I make a motion that we write a letter of support for the 300 committee in enforcing or protecting the public lands. I don't know if Jen can write something up.
It's not the 300 committee, Maury, but we will write a letter to the select board. Like I said, encompassing all of the different ideas and topics we've discussed tonight, and ask them to, again, direct the appropriate departments and authorities to increase enforcement, and then outline the reasons why.
That's
And
exactly.
I know that Rod and Gun Club and the 300 committee have both already sent letters to the select board. So this issue, it's on their radar. I mean, there are a lot of things on the selectmen's radar, but I know this is not going to come as a surprise.
Okay. So
That was just what Maury was going to say.
And I'll second Maury's motion.
All right, before we vote, Jen, I think I inadvertently cut you off with public chat.
The chats were just, it was from Mr. Colburn asking to reinstate DNR's enforcement privileges, and that MES had the authority previously, and that was remanded by the Falmouth Police Department. And then Jessica has a chat that, as she just stated, any sort of enforcement conversation does need to involve MES, and we have had conversations Greg Frazier is monitoring this discussion. And, you know, they're well aware of the issues the town, the Rod and Gun Club, the 300 committee are having on these properties, and they're, you know, they support the ability to enforce these lands. So the directive needs to come from the policymakers of the town.
Betsy?
Just quick, I mentioned the police department. MES has also been responsive in helping
Absolutely.
our issues at the Coonamessett.
Excellent. All right, so we have a motion and a second to write a letter of support or encouragement. So if there's nothing else, we're going to vote on this. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Fred Tug, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
Is unanimous.
Thank you.
In the affirmative, that is. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, AD. Thank you, Mr. Kaspersick.
Thanks,
And
Jess.
Mr.
Thank you,
Fraser,
Mr.
thank you
Culver.
for monitoring.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nice to see you, AD.
Likewise, Courtney, and all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's gonna take me a minute to.
All right. Next up, requests for determination of applicability. Paige J. Roth, Leonard W. Johnson, and Patricia P. Johnson, trustees, 432 Wild Harbor Road, North Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct an existing staircase. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved, Carlo Hawks.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. There's no comments, questions. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney. Courtney, you're on mute.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Fred Tug, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up is continued request for determination of applicability. Gary McNaughton, 57 Seashell Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a first floor addition and a second floor addition. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Carlo
Bird,
Hawks.
so moved.
Carlo
All
Hawks.
right, I got the motion by Maury. Who second?
Fred Tug,
Bird,
second.
second.
Oh my God. I gotta write all these names down. All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any comments or questions? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Carlo Hawks Eye.
Melissa,
Fred Tug, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you. Next up are requests for hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, 1517 LLC, 17 Gosnold Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct part of an existing dwelling, construct a porch, second-story deck, entrance station, reconfigure the driveway and front walk, and to install dry wells and a catch basin. Jen,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Doug Schneider up from Cape and Islands to present his project. Good evening, Doug.
Doug, you're up, sir.
Yes, good evening. Hope everybody's well tonight. May I share my screen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Make sure I get to the right one here. Good evening, Doug Schneider for the record, Cape and Islands engineering here on behalf of 1517 LLC, who is the owner of 17 Gosnold down in Woods Hole. Quick couple of locus maps to get us going. It's located on the western part of Woods Hole, just at the beginning of the entrance to Penzance. Quick aerial view where this little lot right in here, we've got Buzzards Bay to the north, Great Harbor to the south, residential lots to the south, Gosnold Road on the north, Spencer Bard on the northeast. Another zoom in on the lot, get us more oriented. This is our existing house, driveway, lawn area for the property. And going to the site plan, I may zoom in a little bit. We can see that. What the owners are looking to do is to do some renovations to the existing house that is circa 1920 or so. Renovations to the house include removing a porch that's on the east side and constructing a 2-floor living area. There's another screen porch on the west side that'll also be removed and replaced. And then an expansion of living space to the north in lawn area. Existing garage and roof lines for the house will be modified slightly. Resource areas that we're dealing with. Off-site, we have a coastal dune that was identified off to the east through previous filings that throws up the 100-foot buffer B-zone line just on the east corner of the lot. We have a coastal bank, an isolated coastal bank that kind of surrounds the house on the lot. That's has pretty much the road on the north and east sides as its lower boundary, and the flood zone as its upper boundary. Flood zone, which you see in blue, is an AE flood zone, and the entire house is outside of the flood zone in the zone X, but all of the work would be within 100 feet of the isolated coastal bank area. For the majority of the work is renovating the house and then replacing the existing paved driveway that comes in off of Gosnold, will be coming in at the same point, putting in a cobble apron at the current entrance, and then rebuilding the driveway, putting in a small loop turnaround on the driveway that's not there right now. It's just a straight in run. It'd be a stone paved driveway and a walkway that's going up to the entrance up on the proposed new entrance up on the northwest portion of the addition. We'll be installing limit of work, hay bale, erosion control around the majority of the site, pretty much at the limit of where the lawn is now. Installing roof dry wells to pick up the roof runoff due to the slight, the increase in the footprint of the house. We'll also be installing a dry well catch basin for the driveway to pick up the runoff from from the increased area of the driveway. We do have to do a little bit of work to the sewer line that services the property. There's a clean out manhole that's in the area of the new driveway that they'll have to address, make sure it's H20 loading. What else am I forgetting here? We got one tree that'll be removed in this area around the existing plantings that are right around the house. And I think that's about it, quick and simple. I think we've got a project that meets all the performance standards. We are inside rinse station also with dry well and steps and AC condenser pads on the property. And I will stop sharing and turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Doug. All right. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's just that one tree, Doug, that's being removed for the property, for the project?
That's the only one that I could see.
Okay.
Everything else that's on around the house are ornamentals.
And just please advise your client when the staff went out there, Alyssa and Emma observed that the understory was being mowed in the bee buffer, and that activity should probably either be permitted or stopped.
We will pass it along.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. All set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Bergeron?
I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments or questions? Betsy?
I also have no questions or comments. Thanks, Jamie.
All right. Courtney?
No questions or comments.
All right. Kevin?
Likewise, Mr. Chairman, thank
All right.
you.
I sense a theme. Maury?
The only thing is, if you're gonna have a generator, that you'll have to come back to the board to amend it to have a generator there. Otherwise, nice project. Thank you.
Melissa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question about the walkway. It's nowhere did it say what it's going to be made of? Is it going to be the pavers, or is it going to be stepping stones, or what? Because I noticed that it cuts right through a coastal bank there, and it just seems a little odd to be cutting through a coastal bank with a walkway. That's paved.
The intention is for pavers to give them access to the front of the house there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no pavers, there's nothing like that there now. So, yeah, I don't know. So it's going to be pavers, the continuation of the pavers that are in the driveway?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
All right. Steve?
There. No
There you
questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Little
Jennifer?
computer.
Is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat on this project, Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
Gladfelter.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's any more questions or comments? Said that kind of wrong. Since there isn't, we're gonna vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Follow Hawk's Eye.
Melissa?
Right, guy.
Steve?
And I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. I'm going to place you back in attendees unless are you done for the evening?
I am done, but I wanted to listen to the next hearing.
Okay, I'll put you back into attendees.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up, 117 Silver Beach Avenue LLC, 117 Silver Beach Avenue, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling, and install improvement plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am promoting Mike Borselli so he can present his project.
All right. Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering. I represent the applicant. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
I'm sharing with you, just for reference, the existing conditions on the property. The overall lot area is just over 4,500 square feet. There's a BVW located at the rear of the property. It was flagged by Jack Vaccaro a few years ago. Crystal Spring is a paper road, not developed. It's mainly a wetland. There's two AE flood zones on the property, AE 16 from the blue line towards the wetland, AE 15 from the blue line towards Silver Beach Avenue. There's, of course, the existing house and deck. There's a big wide gravel parking area. And there's actually another house on that straddles the lot line that was built decades ago, and there's an easement running to the benefit of that home so that it could remain over the property line. That was done a long time ago. I'm showing it for reference because we had to count this impervious area in our calculations because it's on our lot. The proposed plan, let's see. This is the proposed plan, and I show for reference just in a red dashed line that existing house that I just showed you in the deck. I guess it's note the proximity to the edge of the BVW. It's only, I think, 6.5 feet away. So that house is proposed to be demolished, and a new house is proposed to be built, pulled back dramatically from the edge of the BVW so that everything but a portion of the deck is in the outer buffer zone B. There's a 50-foot no disturbance zone A from the BVW that I show, and there's a 50-foot outer buffer zone B from the BVW that I show. And then I point out in some notes the area of removal of impervious surfaces in the A zone. And I identified the size of the structure that's proposed to be built, and I'm showing that the driveway is going to be narrowed down so that it's only as wide as where these two dashed lines are. And the rest of this is to be removed and loamed and seeded. So there's pieces within the B zone that are considered impervious surfaces that we also identified to be removed and quantified those. And then I provided the impervious surface calculations. And as you might expect, there's a dramatic decrease because the house was almost entirely in the A zone. It's being removed and rebuilt in the B zone. So the net result of the mitigation calculations is there's no need for mitigation plantings. But I convinced the owner that it would be wise to try to establish some buffer from the BVW. So he's proposed a buffer which would be his backyard. It's like 10 feet wide. I'm showing a limit of work, some dry wells for roof runoff. This is on the New Silver sewer, so there's no septic system proposed with this. There were some staff comments. One of the recommendations, which is a good one, was to do something to try to mitigate against the knotweed invading the new buffer plantings that he's proposing. There's no invasives management program included in this, but the native plants are proposed to be not in an area that's currently invasives. And there's a question, will a root barrier be proposed? We're certainly open to a root barrier. I'm not familiar how they work, but if it's what I think it is, it's a barrier under the ground that prevents the invasive roots from migrating into the places you don't want them to be. I've heard of it with bamboo before. So we're certainly open to that recommendation. There was also a suggestion that we provide the data sheets for the wetland. I can track Jack Ficarro down and submit the data sheets. I don't have them. At the time he flagged that it wasn't a requirement, but I'm sure he can provide them for me. I think that sums it up. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mike, I'm going to pick on you for a second. Data sheets have always been required. It's written right in the regulations. We're just now enforcing that requirement. So
maybe I should have said it differently. Yeah. Now that they're
slightly differently,
Yep.
but
Happy
if
to
you could
provide
get them to us, we'll move forward with the project. But if in the future, if you could track Jack down before and try to get them to us, that would be helpful, because it's going to help the agents when they're looking at the wetland lines to determine, if they have questions on the wetland lines. So it's really helpful to have those data sheets to know how someone like Jack flagged, why they flagged where they did. So it's not just we want more paper in our office because we love paper. It's because it's really a helpful tool, especially for the newer agents to help them learn how to look at a wetland line and everything like that. So it's important.
Yep, totally
So I
good.
appreciate that.
Mhm.
The root barrier, you're putting those plantings right next to the invasives. We want to give those kind of improvement plantings a chance.
Sure.
And the root barrier might not save them in the long run, but it'll give them time to become established, and they may have a better chance of surviving against the knotweed. I mean, the knotweed's just horrible.
Yeah, it's extensive in this area.
Yeah, so that's all I have.
Oh, there was sorry to interrupt, but there was a recommendation that we add the lone tree on the site is being removed because it's in the way of where we want to shift the house back out of the A zone. So we're certainly.
So we'll require a tree, Mike.
Plant the tree.
There's only one tree on that whole lot and it's coming down, so.
But I think it's on balance good that we're pulling the house away from the BBW.
Oh, absolutely. But we still want, a tree back on the lot. Absolutely.
Yep.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron?
Thank you. Just one follow-up question, Mike. I'm sorry if I missed it. So where the current improvement plantings are being located, there is some knotweed at the moment. I just didn't, if maybe I might have missed it, what you said your plan was.
There's no plans to do invasives management, but if there's knotweed there, we're not going to plant it where the knotweed is. I thought, based on my observations, we were proposing it in a place where there wasn't knotweed, but we would not put it in directly there. We might have to shift some around a little bit to stay out of the knotweed, install the barrier, and then plant on the opposite side of the knotweed.
Okay, yeah, I only mentioned it because it's actually currently growing under the deck. It's migrating landward quite a bit. So if you wanted to utilize that area or shift it more landward, I think that ball's in your court there.
Understood. I'll speak to the owner about that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioner comments. Courtney?
No comments.
All right. Kevin?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Maury?
I just had two comments. One, the first floor elevation would be nice to have on the house. And the other thing is There's no problem with it being 8 foot off the lot line. The easement.
Oh, there's no issue with it being, there's no setback to the easement, but it's been designed to be set back 10 feet or greater from the actual property line.
Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Nice project.
Thank you. And I will add the first floor, which is proposed to be 16, which is 1 foot above 15, which is the flood.
Okay, thank you.
Melissa,
Great project. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Steve,
Mike, good project.
all right, Betsy,
Mike, are there any areas that are gonna have like concrete? Is gonna be a concrete platform underneath the house?
The lower level of the house will be a concrete slab and it'll be wood framed up from there so it can be used for storage.
Okay, the reason I'm bringing this up is we all know that we don't like knotweed, right? But knotweed is so bad in England that if it's a building site, you're not allowed to build on the site until the knotweed has been eradicated and missing for 3 years.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
Yeah.
So, so I'm a little concerned. Obviously, from what Alyssa said, it's aggressively moving towards the way your new house is going to be. So you might suggest to the owners that they think about dealing with it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I made a note to do that. I'm going to. Unfortunately, I mean, they can do certain things and we could come back for that, by the way, if we need to. With
Right.
that, assuming that it qualify for an amendment. I don't know if it'd be a new notice of an amendment, but I'm going to recommend that he get some advice, and it may end up, you know, he can only manage what's on his land. I mean, it's a vast area of knotweed up there. I mean, you know, it's amazing. It's everywhere. So he'd be really managing it and then trying to create a defense against it migrating back onto his property.
Right. Well, I'm just saying it because it does, it will just grow right up. I've seen it grow like where the depot is on Depot Ave.
Yeah.
They paved where they took some knotweed away. And within a year, knotweed was growing right up through the pavement.
Wow. Yeah. I've seen that too. Yeah. Understood.
So it's just a suggestion.
Totally understood. And I'll be talking to him about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
remember when you go to England. 3 years. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function? Please, Jen's missing.
There's
Nothing in the public chat.
There's nothing in the
Thank
chat.
you. Thank you.
Sorry, Jamie.
No, it's fine. All right. Anything else? All right. I'll
I'll
entertain
make
a
a
motion.
motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Bird second.
You were beaten, Courtney. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Melissa,
Right, guy.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Boselli.
Thank you.
All right, next up. Robert J. Travers, trustee, Tumbleweed Nominee Trust, 26 Cotuit Road, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species removal and restoration. Remove an area of pavement, install an underground propane tank, construct a staircase with landing, grill area, and fire pit, and to install mitigation plantings in accordance with order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4074. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Borselli is here to present his project, and I am attempting to promote someone from Crawford Land Management up as
Should be
well.
Nick Crawford.
Okay,
Well, maybe not.
yeah, there he is.
Welcome back, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering. I'm joined by Nick Crawford of Crawford Land Management. And with your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
I will present my plan, and then Nick is here to supplement and answer questions regarding the work to restore the buffer and manage the invasive planting. So the property is located at number 26 Codewitt Road. You reviewed this prior under a separate order of conditions related to the house construction. And it was by another firm. And part of that decision or the order you issued required native planting to be planted out in the front yard in this area that I'm circling with my mouse, and it has a dashed line around it. So this project is entirely within a dune. I mean, all the houses in the road actually are, if you did an investigation, you discover it was dune. The Seacrest is one of the abutters. There's dune over on this side on the Seacrest parcel. There's a house just to the west of us. There's a house just to the east of us, and there's houses across the street on the north side. The project is to do some improvements around the outside of the house that'll help make it easier to utilize the outside areas, provide a separate means of egress. In addition to the dune, the house itself is located within a flood hazard zone AE16, which is the boundary between AE16 and VE18. And I'm also showing 25 foot in parallel, what becomes the V zone in accordance with your regulations. So the V zone is actually cutting through the house here. We're doing some minor alterations. They're really pertinent to the house to help it function a little better for the owners. And one of those things is shaded in brown. It's a second means of egress off of the deck. The first floor is elevated above the ground to elevation 18 because it's in the flood zone. And so the ground surface is about elevation 8.5 or 9. So it's basically 10 feet up in the air. There is one stairway out front, and then there's a stairway that leads from inside the house. But this small deck area in the area of the house here, it would be beneficial to just provide an access stairway down to grade here. There's a rinse station that exists, and there's an entry to the lower level here. This is all just sand. They walk through this area now. It's not vegetated. There might be some sparse sprigs here and there, but this is traffic around the house, and it would benefit the owner if they could lay bluestone instead of just walking on the dirt, sandy area to get to the entry and get to the rinse station.
Never have ice cream before and hearing, oh God.
And
Melissa, you're not muted. Sorry, Mike.
And one other pertinent they'd like to show is a place to put the grill that's on a stable surface. And then off the small walkway, they're going to put some stepping stones and just put one of those small round circular fire pits so they can enjoy the backyard a little bit. out of the wind. So all those small increases, 72 square feet here, 220 for the walkway, 50 for the stepping stones and fire pit, add to the ground surface. But to offset that, we're proposing to remove a significant portion of pavement that exists over here that has no real use. That's 553 square feet. So we're taking away 553 square feet and we're adding 292 plus 50 would be 348 if I did that right. So we're adding some, but we're taking away more, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. So there's a net decrease in impervious surfaces. In addition to those just improvements to use the outside backyard a little bit better, these shaded areas are proposed to be restored after some invasive management is performed here, and the same over here. And there's details on the Crawford land management plans and specifications that speak to those things. So these are just my, I perceive this as a general improvement because we're reducing the impervious surfaces in total, and we're doing some invasive management and some restoration of the dunes on the sides of the house. There were some staff comments. There was a question about DEP technical comments related to 310 CMR 10.28. That's the section on dune, and in that section of the wetlands regulations speak to not inhibiting or preventing the dune from growing, migrating, or allowing the sand to continue to move where it wants to move. None of the activities that we're proposing will do that. In fact, they might even make it more easy for the sand to transfer because the invasives will be removed and the sand and the shifting of the dune will be able to occur more freely. And this is an access way. It's an open set of stairs, and this is an at-grade bluestone walkway. So if necessary, we could submit a written narrative on how 10.328 is complied with, if you'd like. There was a request to put the area of the structure, proposed structure, in the V zone on the plan. I think the only structure is the stairway, and that is in the Falmouth V zone, and that's 72 square feet. And then there were just some general comments. One question is, how is the non-native and invasive vegetation on the remainder of the property to be managed? And I'll refer to Nick to talk about that, which is a good segue for me to stop sharing and turn it over to Nick to address that. And then we're both here to answer any questions.
Good evening, everyone. Sir.
Nick Crawford from Crawford Land Management. I think it's, Mike covered it pretty well. It's a fairly straightforward plan and matches the narrative pretty well. It includes the restoration of approximately 4,200 square feet. There's an overall square footage reduction of impervious surface of 151 square feet. The 4,200 square feet of restoration work occurs both to the east and west of the house. Both of these areas are predominantly invasive species consisting of bittersweet, vine honeysuckle, and that pretty much makes up the species composition of those two areas for the most part. So we're proposing to, with the combination of mechanical removal and a cut and wipe treatment, depending on existing natives that are there. There's some cedar saplings that are existing. So we, cut and wipe around those and mechanically remove in other areas. It results in the addition of 170 large native shrubs, the addition of 5,600 American beachgrass bare root culms to revegetate and establish a native ground cover since it's within a dune. We also have 250 native perennial plugs to supplement those areas as well. And then the way, as Mike said, one of the staff comments is how are we going to manage the invasive species on the rest of the property? If you look at the plan on the lower half of the property on the southern side, there's a note that says occurrences of non-native and invasive species to be managed. So as a general rule of thumb, if you take the lower or the southern 50% of the property, it's predominantly native with small occurrences of bittersweet and vine honeysuckle coming up through the native vegetation. There's a lot of American beachgrass, bayberry, bearberry, beach plum. It's, I don't want to say pristine because there are invasives in there, but we're of the opinion that if we just remove the small amount of invasives that are within that area, that the area will recolonize itself very quickly and fill in the small gaps that are left over. Any planting in that southern half of the property, I think, would create more unnecessary disturbance rather than just letting what's existing fill in. That's kind of it in a nutshell. And I'll answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thanks, Nick. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I do have some concerns with the further encroachment of the dune. I mean, I know the whole area is a dune, but when this project was originally proposed, they were keeping a really tight footprint. And all the disturbed areas at that time were supposed to be replanted with beach grass. If you look at both the Falmouth Engineering's plan and the Crawford Land Management Plan, in that north, the arrow, that kind of southwest corner or that southwest corner of the house, they are proposing to further encroach in that dune. Definitely the fire pit and the stepping stones around that, I do have some concerns because we're further pushing into that dune area. Even with the walkway and everything, you're further encroaching onto what really just wants to be a dune. So those are my comments. And Nick, you said it's predominantly native on the southern side of the property?
Yeah, the lower, the southern half of the property or southern third.
It's just kind of very vague when you have occurrences to be managed.
It's basically some small amounts of bittersweet growing up and through the natives.
Okay.
I think it looks nearly pristine. There's almost nothing to do back there, but that's how we plan on managing anything that is in there.
Okay, you've worked with Falmouth for long enough. We really like our plans locked down and, so, but okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past to say that once the invasives were removed back there and the bittersweet was treated, you probably wouldn't be able to even notice.
Perfect. Okay, great. And that's all I have for right now. That's my main concern, is the further encroachment of the dune with the walkways, the stair, and the fire pit, especially the fire pit area. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron?
Just one thing to add regarding the fire pit area. If I understood the staking correctly, it looks like there's 2 very small cedars in that area. Would those be coming out, or would you be working around those?
Absolutely working around those.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Kevin, we're gonna start with you.
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Maury,
Where's the septic, Mike?
Where is the septic? I know it's in the back, but I didn't investigate it with an, I didn't find the as-built, or I didn't go through the effort of looking for the as-built, but I know it's in the backyard.
All right, only because I'm looking at the gas tank that you're gonna install.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
over here. It's
All
not
right,
over-
I think it's right off of, almost where the 3 shrubs are shown by the rinse station. It's not far off the house. I saw a concrete cover with a iron, a metal handle.
that-
But I didn't know if
that's
it was
the
a
tank.
dry well or a septic, cover.
I think that's the tank. Yep.
It's probably the tank.
Yep.
Just, again, I was just concerned with that not on the plan, that somebody might find it. I do have the same concerns with Jen. I really do like your invasive plant management on the sides, because I don't think I've seen that much bittersweet in a long time.
It's thick.
It's amazing. So I like that, but I have to concur with Jen with the encroachment with the fire pit, because we all know fire pits, you don't just have ring around the rosy, it ends up with 5, 10 chairs out there. That's what they're fun. They're where you entertain and have a good time. And this kind of the circle you show around it, I think it's like 5 feet off around the whole fire pit. And, I'm just thinking of a chair and everything else that you'll probably be encroaching more as time goes on. The only thing is the dune will restore and grow somewhere else. But, we really don't like to see that much activity going on in an established dune. And that's all. Thank you.
thank you. Melissa,
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, I have similar concerns about the fire pit, everyone. I just think it's a bad idea, especially mixing sparking fires with dunes and foot traffic near dunes. I have a question about the proposed bluestone walkway, maybe.
Mhm.
Just a little rusty with my verbiage. When you say bluestone, do you mean the actual 1-inch pebble bluestone, or do you mean the big slab slate type?
It would be the rectangular pieces that are laid in a pattern, and they're dry laid with, joints. Not in concrete or anything like that.
But not the free flowing gravel
No,
stuff. No.
no. The idea is to have like a more stable, smooth surface.
Surface. Match the other smooth surface. And okay, thank you, Mike. And then the saplings, the cedar saplings that are there are going to stay?
They're gonna
All
stay.
of them?
In fact, if they're near the fire pit, I'm likely gonna recommend to my client that he reconsider the fire pit based on what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, Mike. Thank you. That's enough. That's it.
all right. Steve,
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
all right. Betsy,
No comments or questions. Thanks, Jamie.
all right. Courtney,
No comments.
all right. I'm gonna aggravate Jen. I don't have a problem with the fire pit. Where else are you gonna put it? In what property, I mean, once this whole project's done, the whole place is pretty well vegetated, so I don't know. I think it's a good thing. I mean,
Mr.
all the revegetation.
Mr. Chairman, someone had their hand up. Mr. Gallagher, if you would like to be recognized, can you put your hand back up, please? And I'll promote you to a panelist. Yeah, okay. Hang on one second, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I wasn't done with commissioner comments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pardon me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm sorry.
All right,
It's break.
public chat, please. Are you promoting him in?
I did, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gallagher, you're promoted to the panelist. If you would enable your video and your mic, you can address the board.
Oh, did either one come through?
Well, we see a picture of a camera and we can hear your voice, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep my video going here. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm a licensed builder in Massachusetts, so I'd be helping the owner, who's a good friend of mine. And so the only reason we're asking for the fire pit, because obviously because it's in a dune, there's no grass, front yard, backyard, or anywhere there. So hoping there would be a little consideration just for more of a gathering point for the backyard. They would be happy to revise the plan if it became anything near a cedar tree or anything that would remotely be considered dangerous for any fire. So you certainly would never want to jeopardize anything, the house or the neighbors or anyone else. So just hoping that the board would consider that just for a little bit, for fun, and especially in the summertime for a gathering point. So that's all. And if it can't work, then obviously he would understand that too. But if it can, it would be very much appreciated. That's all. Did that come through?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know if it did.
Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration. That's all.
Mike, just a reminder or a reiteration about the locating the septic. I mean, somewhere at some point, you're going to need to know, somebody's going to need to know where that is for that propane. So
Yes, absolutely.
I do think it should be on the plan or included in the package. All right. Jen, is there anything else in the public chat function, please?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right.
I'll make a motion. If you're ready, motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further, we're going to vote. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Melissa?
Hardtack, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed the hearing. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. According to my records, Courtney, Maury, and Melissa are not on the next three. So if you want to take a break, feel free. If not, hang out. Next
I will
up
take a
are
break.
continued requests for hearing under a notice of intent. Pincinel Builders, 362 Ecopesket Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, RAZE, an existing single-family dwelling, construct a new single-family dwelling with a garage, porches, patio, and pool. To install a new IA septic system and to install mitigation plantings. And again, just for the record, the quorum excludes Courtney, Maury, and Melissa. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mike Purcelli is still here to present yet another project.
Thank you.
It's Mike Porcelli Show.
Hopefully this is my last show, portion of my show for the evening. For the record again, Mike Porcelli, Falmouth Engineering. I represent the applicant. And again, permission to share my screen briefly.
Yes, sir.
This is a continued hearing. We went through the comprehensive description and presentation and comments and questions by staff and commissioners at the last meeting that was, I think, 3 weeks ago. And I heard loud and clear one thing, more trees. So we added more trees. We had proposed 20 at first. We now have 29. I also was specific in my calculation of mitigation area to exclude the circles around each tree, which are 5-foot diameter circles that happen to be within the mitigation planting area, and deducted that from the total. The current and revised mitigation calculations yielded a total required planting of 7,896. That's reduced a little bit from the last time because we trimmed down this patio by a couple feet. So the proposed new mitigation planting is 7,896, and we're proposing 8,200. A little bit more than the requirement. And the 9 added trees were all added to the plan. They're all either in an A or B zone. There was one comment about shifting some of the trees a little bit more. This tree, there was a request to shift this a little bit further from the house, which we can do, and shift a couple here that are close to the tank a little bit further from the tanks. I just want to remind you that we went to the Board of Health. They voted to approve this septic system. It's an IA septic system. I know Maury's not on the quorum, but I want to get my points in about the IA septic system. And I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike. All right. Jen.
Nothing other than the location of the trees, Mike. That Tupelo is like only barely 15 feet from the edge of the house. It eventually will become a problem.
Yep.
We don't want it to come down. So if we could just shift around some of those trees, we can condition it that those trees can be shifted.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. I'd be very happy if you could condition it.
Yeah, we can condition it, but we're gonna, can you do me one favor, Mike? Can you throw your plan back up on the screen real quick? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Where do you think you could shift that Tupelo to, Mike?
My
Because
plan
it seems
was
like they're all on the edge.
I'm going to shift both of these this direction.
Okay,
A
perfect.
little bit. I've got enough surplus mitigation that even if this 5-foot diameter gets in the green, I'll move these as a group another probably 5 feet or so.
Okay, perfect. And the ones near the tank?
I'm going to move these 2 here out a little bit further away. So, and I can move this one. I can move that one to like another location over here if I have to.
Okay, we don't want them too close to the field, but
Right.
yeah.
I think
Okay,
I
perfect.
can juggle them all around here. I'm not concerned about this one. These are a little closer. I can move this one, and this one in slightly different
Okay.
locations.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Steve, we're going to start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Borselli and staff for working this out. It was good before, now it's better. No
Thank you.
questions.
Thank you. Betsy.
Thanks, Mike, for being concerned and, yeah, for fitting all those trees within the mitigation area too. It was good. You must have had fun counting and adding and.
I did. Thank goodness for computers.
All set?
Yep.
Okay. All right, Mike, I'll add in the sentiment. Good job.
Thank you.
And I will give you, I'll nominate you for points for the IA system. Kevin.
I guess I'd just like to add congratulations. You've had a good night, Mr. Borselli, and this
Thanks.
sort of caps it.
Thank you.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not for this project, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Then I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
O'Brien, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, we're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Borselli.
Thank you very much and have a good night.
Good night, Mike.
Good night.
Lucky you.
Good night, Mike.
Good night.
Next up, Caesar F. Palmer, trustee, Pondview Trust, 6 Hamlin Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct an unpermitted parking area. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Tom Bunker up to present his project.
I'm sorry, Tom, before you start, for the record, the quorum excludes Courtney, Maury, and Melissa. Thank you. Sorry, Tom, you're up.
All right, yeah, no problem. Good to get that out of the way. For the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Prepared this plan, which I will show you when I share my screen.
Thank you.
I think I will anyway. Let me see. There. So when we were here before, there was an issue. Jen had the concerns that the grass pave might become impervious with use, and I agree to that. I agree with that to some extent. It can, and in case that does happen, required that we would show 680 square feet of area where mitigation could be planted in the event that happened. So I do have 680 square feet here. These two areas here in the lawn. We have one grouping down here, and then another group up here of possible areas for mitigation planting. So that's the one change. We added that, so it can be taken care of. But the other thing I did was changed from grass pave to gravel pave. So gravel pave, again, when built properly, and will be pervious. And I believe it's much easier to remain pervious because there's no loam getting in the way that could be compacted and become impervious. So this is the construction protocol, is to remove all of the poorly draining soil, the subsoil silt, whatever might be below there, and replace it with well-drained subgrade compacted sandy gravel and filter fabric and evenly angular coarse washed stone as the surface treatment. And I believe this will have much better likelihood of remaining pervious, and that the potential mitigation area will not have to be used, but it's there just in case. So that's it. I'll take any questions.
Thanks, Tom. Jen?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Ms. Bergeron?
I have no comments as well. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy?
No comments. Thanks, Tom.
All right. Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Steve?
Thanks, Tom. No questions.
All right. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Not for this project, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Then I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
O'Brien, second.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you. I'll be back later. I'll try to beat Mike at appearances tonight.
No, it's the speed of appearances.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. Next up, Paul Lieberman and Rachel Nager, P. Lieberman, 2015 Revocable Trust, 24 Westwood Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species management, remove an area of existing vegetation, and install a fence. And before we start, again, I have the quorum as excluding Maury, Melissa, and Courtney. All right, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Teresa Sprague up from Blue Flax Design to present her continued project. It's just you, Teresa, right?
Yep, just me. Mike obviously decided to exit stage left, so that's fine. So formally Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design here on behalf of Paul Lieberman and Rachel Nager for 24 Westwood Road. With the chair's permission, may I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. So after the last hearing, we made some revisions. Whoops, it probably help if I blew it up a little bit so you could see it. We made some revisions to the, let's see how that works. Okay, we made some revisions to the plan to bring back before you. The main revisions that we made were to reduce the overall size of the proposed lawn area. So if you recall, we were proposing to transition a portion of the of an area outside or within the 100-foot buffer zone that had been previously planted and had been pruned significantly and continuously over a number of years to a lawn area to install a pool fence and fencing for dog and children and to create a lawn recreation area for the new family that owns the home. So we heard the feedback from the commission. We reduced the size of the area that we're proposing to transition to fescue microclover lawn. We brought the proposed fencing landward of the flood zone, so we're outside of the flood hazard zone. I also provided some dimensions from the 50-foot buffer line, which is shown in red, you can see on the plan, to the proposed fenced area. So we have on average 10 feet of additional buffer beyond the 50-foot buffer zone line that would remain completely vegetated and in a natural state. And in addition to that, at the commission's request, we did propose a vista corridor, 25-foot wide vista corridor with a note that it would be managed per the Falmouth Wetlands Regulations, Vista Pruning Regulations 10.18, 1010B. And just in general, that is shrubs cannot be pruned further than or any lower than 5 feet. Trees limbed up any higher than 15 feet, no topping. No more than a quarter of the tree can be managed per season. And certainly we would be happy to meet with staff prior to doing any vista management, have the vista corridor marked, meet with staff to review what would be done in order to complete vista management. Our original proposal was not to do any vista management at all, but I think the commission felt that it would be appropriate to put a vista corridor for the record on the plan at this time, so that when vista management was going to be undertaken, we could do that with staff guidance. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh, I'm sorry. Additionally, we did add extra shrubs. So we added some additional winterberry holly, as well as 2 Quercus bicolor swamp white oak and 2 Amelanchier serviceberry understory trees on the northern property line to help mitigate for loss of biomass for the removal of the vegetation that has been cut in the area that we're proposing to transition to the fescue microclover lawn. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the changes.
Thanks, Teresa. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Teresa, can you refresh my memory? Can you tell me how you're going to remove all the vegetation?
From the management area.
area.
We'd do that mechanically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the board will have to determine whether they're comfortable with that. And you said that you'll stake the Vista the Vista corridor?
We would stake the Vista corridor and meet with staff before any Vista management was being undertaken. Like I said, we were not proposing Vista management as part of the original plan, but we understood that the commission felt more comfortable if we got a Vista corridor on the plan at this time.
Okay. Thank you. So that'll be conditioned that we have to stake it as well.
Correct.
And I think this was one of the sites, Teresa, and I don't know if it was your crew or Falmouth Engineering's crew, but some of the commissioners had concerns. They didn't know what property they were on. So I wasn't sure if it was your crew that staked the property or Mike's. But in the future, we're going to be sending out a little reminder on lot line staking.
Okay, we did. So Blue Flax Design did do the staking on this. So meaning that the lot lines were unclear or the entrance to the property.
Yeah.
Okay,
correct.
all right.
And a lot of times in these restoration type projects, invasive management projects, we know it's tough to get in there, but if you somehow can stake where the lot lines are, then, at least the commissioners aren't wandering onto someone else's property.
Understood. And
Getting
that
hit by
would
a
be
dog
something
or
that
something.
we would ask the surveyor to go out and do to stake the lot lines. So we felt comfortable, measuring off and staking the 50-foot buffer in the project
Okay.
area. But this, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right,
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
all right. Ms. Bergeron?
I have no comments. Thank you.
All right. Betsy?
Hi, Teresa. Can you refresh my memory? The area that is not that's going to be lawn, the other area.
Yeah.
I know there are trees there, and some of them had been kind of shredded, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have a plan of what trees are supposed to be where? So that we have
within the
Within-
50-foot buffer zone.
Correct.
The trees were not located. Let me go back to the original Falmouth Engineering plan on that. And see if all of the trees were located individually, but I don't believe they were. I believe, let me see, I'll pull that up. I can share this with you, and we can take a look at this. So what you're looking at right now is the original site plan that was done by Falmouth Engineering, and individual trees were not located. So this entire area, the note on here is vegetated, and this is a really tight thicket of trees and shrubs mixed together. We did note along the edge of the pathway, there's a little bit of invasive vegetation. It's less than 10%. We were proposing to just remove that invasive vegetation along the edge of the pathway and just allow it to naturally regenerate. But I don't have specific tree locations within this area. I know as we get further or closer to the top of Coastal Bank, we've got a lot of just natural wind pruning. So I know there's some cedar trees in here, there's oak trees in here, and some cherry in here. But I know that in the past, obviously this area had been cut not as heavily as the area that we're proposing to transition back to fescue microclover lawn.
Okay, well, I again, and I've asked this for other plans too. I'd like to have some kind of a record as to what trees are there now.
Yes. So each one individually located?
Yeah, I'd prefer that.
Okay.
And I don't actually need to have it right now, but you would have to have that plan before you started any work on the site.
Okay. I will put that on Mr. Borselli's list.
Do you want that? Do you want all the trees located in the
buffer zone?
In the buffer.
Yeah.
Before work can start.
Correct.
Okay.
So when Alyssa goes out there for compliance, or somebody goes out there 5 years from now, you can say that these trees are missing.
Yes.
Well, hopefully we won't have to do that. Hopefully nobody will have to say that.
No, the only thing that we are proposing to remove though there are some oaks that have been previously managed. I'll put it that way. Mildly, I think Jennifer and Alyssa used the word hacked, and I would agree with them that in the past they had been hacked. So those oaks within that area where we're proposing to transition to micro clover fescue lawn will be removed, but we're not proposing to manage anything within the 50-foot buffer, the entire naturally vegetated buffer, except the vista management. If and when the Liebermans decide to undertake that management, we would meet with staff. And then just to remove some of the invasive vegetation, we have a note 10% invasive species selectively remove, allow to renaturalize. And that's basically just along the edge of the existing footpath to the beach. There is a much higher concentration of invasive vegetation within the area that we're proposing to manage and bring back to lawn.
I use the word shredded for those trees.
Shredded, okay.
That's all I had, Jamie.
All right. All right. Yeah, without the, Teresa, you can take the plan down.
Sorry.
Without the trees located, it's difficult to see where, the trees are there, the new ones, how you're coordinating those. So it'd be helpful to have that.
Okay.
All right, Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Steve.
I think that information is useful. Have the drones now but I think that's a good idea. Never mind.
Thank you. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
I have another
public chat.
Yeah, hold on.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Jen?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, Betsy.
Just one other comment. What do you have around the pool? Is that native?
It is. It's switchgrass. So
Okay.
there's currently miscanthus around the pool, which is escaping into other areas. So we're proposing to remove the miscanthus and plant switchgrass around the pool, basically just to screen the concrete around that pool. Yeah.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Patton second.
Oh. All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, we're voting. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Teresa.
You too. Good night.
Good night.
No more acts for you tonight?
No.
Exit stage left.
I'm exiting stage left. Thanks. Good night.
Night.
All right, next up, Jerry Brown, President, Sandpoint Shores Association, Inc., 0 Pinecrest Beach Drive, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to conduct beach nourishment. Jen?
Mr. Chairman, this was a late continuance today. They are requesting a continuance until March 29th. Let me confirm that. March 29th.
So moved,
Okay.
Gladfelter.
Patton second.
All right, so the motion and the second on the table is to continue this to 3/29. Any questions or comments? All right, Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maureen?
Carla Hawks, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 29th.
Excuse me, Jamie, I was on that one.
Sorry?
I was on that one, on the quorum.
No, you weren't.
For 0 Pinecrest Beach?
You missed 2/8.
Well, it was continued.
It was continued. This was a
Zero-
continuance.
Zero Pinecrest Beach, we saw a long time ago.
I know, but it was continued. So it doesn't matter.
I don't need to vote on it? Okay,
No,
that's fine. Okay.
All right, that brings us to Joseph G. Sorry if I get this wrong. Jitta M. Farah, trustees, Harborfront Realty Trust, 26 Loomis Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct and enlarge the garage, reconstruct the existing patio in the same footprint, and to install mitigation and restoration plantings. And this hadn't been opened, so the quorum is all of us. Ben?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tom Bunker's here to present his project.
Thank you. This is my act number 2. The one just continue would have been my act number 2, but we're doing this one instead, I guess. I'll put my screen up and jump right in.
Please do.
Right, if I can find this stuff.
I like your screensaver.
Yeah, there, I'll cover it with a PDF here of a plan.
Oh, good job. I love Robert. I just wanted to do.
And do a little bit of history here. Well, first I'll say I think Mrs. Farah's name is pronounced Gita, not Gita, being European or whatever. But anyway, I have this property. They bought it in 2009. We did a septic upgrade for them in 2009. And then sometime after that, around in 2012, I guess they started cutting vegetation. Mark and the commission or the department gave them a cease and desist order, back in, that was in 2012. We went out and located all the trees, but we never got to filing with you to solve the cease and desist order, and they just kept happily living there and ornamenting their property. And now, 10 years later, they various reasons and changes in their circumstances, they now are making this their year-round forever house and want to make some more permanent changes to it. And so it was brought up as being that this garage would be rebuilt larger, and they want to rebuild the patio, which is on the water side of the property down here. And then, of course, that brings up trying to satisfy the requirements and the cease and desist and the cease and desist order, which was to put plants back how they were from 2009, 2012, whenever. I can show you, this is in Loomis Lane. It fronts on Snug Harbor, which of course is part of the whole West Falmouth Harbor area. I can give you a little show in the locus map there. In this, Buzzards Bay is off to this side, and so Snug Harbor, it's right by the there's Mashapaquet Creek going up toward Chase Road, and of course the Nashawina Street Bridge across the creek is right here, and then Loomis Lane. So that's the part of the harbor that they front on right there. So we have Snug Harbor, a band of salt marsh along here. There's some beach area behind the salt marsh, and stone retaining wall, which has been there since before they bought it, quite old. Some mortared in place stone retaining wall. And of course, that wall is a coastal bank, and the slope going up. So we have the flood zone. This heavy line right through here is the flood zone. Wraps around the patio, which is just barely above the flood zone, which is AE elevation 17. Of course, down here along the edge of the harbor, we have flood zone VE elevation 18, and then of course the 25-foot Falmouth flood zone runs through in this location. So any coastal bank emanating in here, it's basically a slope up, but any coastal bank emanating here has its toes in the velocity zone and possibly its toes down on another resource area being the beach. So it has a 50-foot zone A. These whatever color they are, gold color, are the zone A's. You have land subject to tidal action, coastal beach, land under the ocean. Zone A is going through here. The farthest inland zone A is, well, we have the zone A of the salt marsh through here. And then since the flood zones changed in 2014, so there's now the flood zone comes up this far, and so there is coastal bank slope steeper than 10-to-1. So there's a coastal bank zone A all the way back to here. And there's likewise coastal bank on the west side of the house, which has its own zone A coming in this location. That did change prior to 2014. The flood zone was much lower, and but there was coastal bank still, but it was a lower coastal bank, and this was the zone B of the coastal bank. This is the limit of jurisdiction. So that was at that time the septic was put in more than 100 feet from any resource area here. But currently now the zone B of the coastal bank is back here. Why I bring that up is some of these changes were made prior to 2014, back here being outside jurisdiction. But a lot of the changes in both sides of the house and around it were done in most of the changes were done within jurisdiction, both before 2014 and certainly after 2014. So I have those resource areas there. The last thing I met with Mark and Alyssa, and I had misunderstood and met the week before with the whole conservation department crew, and they commented on counting up the number of cedar trees that were shown in 2014 or 2012, our plan, but are no longer there. And I misunderstood, thinking they were in this location, but Mark corrected me, and so I have makes more sense that these are the ones, larger cedar trees, marked with this symbol. And see, I can even locate trees that aren't even there. Talk about that. Anyway, we have a number of cedar trees through here, down to this location that were there in 2012 and are no longer there. It's possible, certainly some got cut. It's possible some got cut, and it's also possible that some that are in the denser areas might have been in decline due to being in shade, such as this one right here, a 6-inch cedar tree at that time, right next to what's now a 30-inch oak tree. Cedars don't do well in shade. That one and some others could have gone into decline because of that, but can't say because they're gone. There are a few others. Some out here were done. The 2009 septic upgrade. The tank was put in right here, and there was a tree, some cedar trees here that are outside the jurisdiction. This one is inside jurisdiction, and here and here. So I did those. We also located as best we could every tree on the site to see what's there now and what needs to be replaced, what isn't there now. One point that there are a number in these red dots. They were, rather the orange dots, these were the ones we had located in 2009. The red dots, this LC is a Leyland cypress, so the number of 3 to 4, 6-inch Leyland cypress. The red plants are the ones that will be taken out, particularly the non-native trees, the Leyland cypress, but there's also our dead cedar tree here. Up here, some cryptomeria, I suppose japonica, pretty large trees. 1, 2, 3 or 4 of them in this location. They're crowding around that oak tree. Those are non-native, will be removed. I do have this dashed gray line coming around the edge here. It's what I called in this note the cleansing area. So everything between the property, everything in here, all the non-native, any structures, like there's an arbor and a bench here. There's an area of stone here, some stepping stones and a table running through the site here. Just kind of estimated these circles represent some statues and bird baths and what have you in here. And there's also this little shed. We have the shed slated to remain and mitigated for. Otherwise, everything through here, all non-native plants and any of these hardscape or ornaments or whatever you call them will be removed. But there are a couple of oak trees, a dead oak tree right here and another dead oak tree here, which I have labeled to remain because, you know, the cavity nesters, woodpeckers and all like them. Although maybe they'd be topped so they're not too tall and won't fall on the house. So there's the cleansing area on this side and likewise over here. This one is not as bad. There are a number of ornaments through here that will be removed. You can go through these, many of these shrubs are native, but some are not. And we have a note down here, more LCs, Leyland cypress, are right down the property line. Not sure exactly whose they are, but we will carefully stake this property line. And if they're on the Ferris property, we'll have them removed. And so that area is to be cleaned out. Again, any non-native invasive species, furniture, stepping stones, statuary, and other garden ornaments. In this area, this is the brick patio. If you were out there, you see it's brick with a number of pieces of carpet and oriental rugs on it. It's quite uneven, as wood, timber edging around it. And so that will be removed and rebuilt. This up here is the existing garage. We just on this is existing conditions and demolition plan. We say this is to be removed. And I could note also that this change in the driveway here is fairly recent, and so we've identified this as new paving, that new driveway that would have to be mitigated for also. The old driveway used to come out this way here. I will pull up the proposed. There it is. Okay. So on this, I have, there are 3 types of planting I have here. 2 of them are shown here, mitigation planting and replacement planting. And the third one is the third planting is actually not even shown because I can't quantify it quite yet, but the replacement planting, actually one thing I didn't show on here, this kind of, where is it now? Under this scalloped edge was the edge of the lawn in 2009. And so I've calculated the areas between the old lawn area and what exists now. And I have those areas in this type of box here. And so this is 388 square feet right here, 341 square feet, 300 square feet here, and on. I have them tallied through here. So the subtotal west of this path, the path to the dock, so I have it broken down. So west of the path, I have 867 square feet removed. That's from around here, and that's 256. It's and other areas in here. 867, and on the east side, 1,462. So there's 2,329 square feet of mowing and brush clearing that occurred and new lawn created. So I'll go back to this plan. So as shown in that the legend, this area with the plus signs is the replacement planting. So we have 765 square feet, 620 square feet up along here. So basically I kept a 4-foot wide path through here and through here, and then 450 square feet. So this is the tally of the replacement planting, which is a native shrubs and some trees, of 2,465 square feet, which is 136 square feet more than had been removed. And so that will take 154 to 178 shrubs, 4 feet on center, plus 3 native red cedar trees in the replacement planting. And then the mitigation planting, which is this area and over this area, comes from the increase in the size of the garage, from this driveway increase in size right here. This is a 3-car garage, but the bay down here will not be used for cars. So this is to be just a stone surface for access to that bay for lawnmowers and lawn furniture, what have you, barbecue grills in there, little things, trash cans in there. So we have the mitigation calculations, which comes to 1,278 square feet required. And so I have just in 2 zones of 680 and 640, so 1,320 square feet of shrubs, which is 147, 169 shrubs, plus a native tree. And so that's one area there, and like I said, the other area here. And when we were on site, Jen didn't feel that shrubs would survive, but if you'd been out there, these what cedar trees there are limbed up good 8 or 9 feet high, unfortunately. And I do believe that shade tolerant or shade loving shrubs will survive under these. And I mean, some of this is out in the sunshine and here and here, and it's just some mixed in through here underneath the cedar trees. And in the wild, you do find shrubs going, well, in the wild, you don't usually find cedar trees that are limbed up like that. But when they are missing their limbs, shrubs do grow under them. Actually, I wanted to go back to I had the list of, I know you're going to ask about how many trees and how many square inches. I do have this. So it's 14 trees and 138 diameter inches that were missing since 2012 or so. And just go back. I want to show you that one. So I can't remember if I had it here or I just put it in the narrative. But the other type of planting that I was talking about would be in the so-called cleansing area here, which I don't know really how many how many spaces will be created. Quite a bit, but I don't know how many square feet will be created by removing all the non-native trees. What I've shown here are some of mostly native trees and shrubs remaining. This area is about 1,500 square feet. And so I have a kind of a specification, a performance spec, basically saying whenever there's a space bigger than 5 feet in diameter to fill it in with at least one or more shrubs, and that there also will plant no fewer than 4 6 to 8 foot red cedar trees and 4 hardwood trees. That's on this side, and over on the other side, wherever that is. Okay, there's just 800 square feet of infill planting required on this side. And again, it's hard to say how much will be required, but I hope you can kind of accept a performance specification saying that there'll be no space larger than, or any space that's at least 5 feet in diameter will be filled up with some type of tree or shrub. The staff had a couple of questions. I did reply to some of them in an email. I sent the plan, the existing conditions plan showing all of the trees which are missing with my reply to some of the questions. And one was about Alyssa had the right idea. It had to do with the mitigation calculations, that the driveway 309 square feet includes this area plus this stone area here. The dry well, let's say I have it on here now. That's a proposed dry well, not an existing dry well in this location. So her comment was show the remove trees, which I've done. The dock permitted. I couldn't find any permitting or licensing for it. Haven't exhausted, turned over every stone, but I haven't found anything yet. The increase in driveway which occurred after 2014 will require mitigation, and that's shown on here. That's this area here, and the new proposed stuff is here. The one thing that I haven't, I just doing some quick calculations on the increased coverage in this area, the zones A and B, and that comes to about six. Some of this is in these stones are in zone A, and these stones and up to here are in zone B. Actually, that's in the zone A there. Well, this is zone A of the coastal bank, and I miscalculated, but it was basically it's coming to 676 square feet for the increase in the size of this and these stones. There had always been a brick walkway coming through here and a smaller stoop. So I can get to that. I don't have the exact final number, but I can say that how I have it calculated, and when I met with Mark and Alyssa, Mark wanted these two paths filled in, and this would be, let's say, high quality buffer planting. Those two paths together are 646 square feet. Here, the number I'd come up with for this mitigation would be 676. So I propose to fill that in. As I said, I had calculated some of this as in zone B, but it looks like it's mostly in zone A, so we'll have to do some more recalculating. Hope I'm getting close. Let's say that I'll take this down for the moment and take questions, and then we can discuss.
Thank you, Tom. Jen?
Tommy made me dizzy moving that plan around.
Oh, sorry. There's a lot on it.
I was just like, whoa. We're getting closer, Tom. I think we need to evaluate the trees that were removed, how many trees need to go back. I know there's a tremendous amount of non-natives, or there's a lot of non-natives to take out. And we've heard some concerns from, abutters. And I think it would be helpful if there was any way to at least tag or flag the big trees that are coming out. Is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
I think that would be helpful and give everyone a visual on what's coming out and then what needs to be replaced. And we're definitely going to have to evaluate your new plan with your red and orange dots to see how many trees we feel are necessary to put back on the property. Also, the 4-foot wide path, I know we discussed it in the field. I know we discussed it 5 years ago, probably even before then. But what is the purpose of keeping the 4-foot wide grass path to nowhere in that little area? Because it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't lead anywhere.
No, it doesn't go anywhere, but some people like to just walk through and look at whatever. But like I said, because more mitigation will be required, we'll throw that into the mix.
Okay.
And then probably have to do some more.
Okay. You're going to need a continuance job. Kind of figure that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have for right now, Mr. Chairman. We're just going to have to regroup with Tom either later this week or next week and kind of go over his plan with him again and look at the cedar trees. That was an ask by Mark, and see where we go from there. But thank you for doing that, Tom. I appreciate it. I know it's helpful to visualize. It's helpful for Mark to visualize because he's been really involved with this property. So we're kind of turning to him for, okay, Mark, like, where do we go from here? So, Thank you for that.
Well, we'll try to give Mark what he wants.
Yes. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bergeron.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Tom, for explaining everything. I know there's a lot of details. It looks like the last thing we may need to wrap up will be the trees. So hopefully that's the consensus of the board too, and we can all move forward. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. We're going to start with Maury.
You're muted.
Oh.
Maury, you're muted.
I'm trying to push the button. I didn't know I was going to be first. Usually it's Betsy.
Oh, here we go.
No, only the first time. I'm only first for the first hearing of the night.
Never mind. Doesn't matter.
Anyway, the few concerns I have is, I think that the path needs to be filled in. Mitigation planting should be closest to the resource. And especially since that's lawn and I know it gets fertilized regularly and I'd rather see it eliminated so that doesn't happen anymore. The 300 on the, it would be on your, the east side where it says 303 square feet, Tom.
Yeah.
That is not, you have your little squiggly line like that's vegetated, but it's not. That's all bare all the way to the property line with some kind of wooden box in it. So that originally was vegetated. So are you gonna,
Wait.
how is that added into your calculation?
Which one are you talking about now?
Right at the very, where it says Snug Harbor, it would be the southeast corner where it says 303 square
Right.
feet. And now
Right,
it's
that's
lawn?
300, that's 300 square feet.
You're gonna
That's-
fill that
well,
in?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, that's where the path goes now, but it will be filled in.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, did you calculate for the AC units that weren't there before? were they?
I have not
They
yet.
were
no.
not. Okay.
No.
And I have to agree, cedars don't do that well under oak canopies, but American hollies do. And I think that keeping those larger trees, the cryptomeria and the lelands to be wind blocks, because that's a pretty exposed area, that you maybe put in some large, 5 to 6 foot American hollies that would do much better in the shaded area. That would be more of a substantial tree and habitat.
In which area by the crypt? On the
Just
west
a-
side or any?
Pretty much
side?
where the new word, which Tom, I'm really cleansing. That was kind of the word, where that came from.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you should refrain from that one. That sort of sounds like it's a little extreme, but
Well, it is extreme.
yeah. Well, this really is not a heavily, ornamentally extremely overplanted.
Right.
But no, on both sides where you're proposing to put, other trees, I think that American hollies do very well. They're salt tolerant and they're very shade tolerant and they're a great habitat and food source for birds. And other than that, there's a million questions that you started tonight and the staff is going to work with you and the rest of the board can go, but those are my few. And I think you should give us the caliper inches that were removed so we know what you owe us in caliper inches.
Yeah, that's on there.
Yeah.
It's on. It's on. It's on the file. Sent a file. I emailed a file.
Okay. All right. As long as we have it. What was the number so I can put it on my plan?
Well, it is, looking at it, it is 14 trees and a total of 138 inches.
Okay. Thank you.
You'll get that plan, Maury.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
I emailed that plan because that I can print in color, so it's easier to see on the screen. And
you did
I don't have a big printer in color.
And you did calculate all the stepstones and.
Well, I have to go through that. Like I said, I didn't include some. I put some in as zone B when they're actually in zone A.
Okay.
So I missed some of the numbers, missed some of the square feet.
So you have a lot of counting and homework. Okay. Thank you. If I have any more questions, I'll raise my hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa?
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Tom, for the colored version that you had on just now, because it was a lot easier to read
Yeah, it is.
than the black and white ones that we've got. Anyhow, I love what Maury said, especially about the hollies. So thank you, Maury, about all that. But not step stones, but the stone steps coming down from the bluestone patio. Sort of a question along the lines of the dock is, are those also permitted, those stone steps down there?
Well,
I mean,
from the patio down, right now, they're actually wooden steps.
Okay, well, it mentions, okay,
I don't know. I mean, it's been there. It's been there. They have been there. They probably show up in the 2009, our 2009 plan. I'd have to check. They've been there a long time. I don't think they have any kind of specific permission as such.
mm-hmm. Do they get mitigated for then ultimately somehow or compensated for in your arithmetic?
Well, I guess it depends if I'm having trouble with my computer right now. There it is.
That's just another question.
It depends if you how much of it you take as pre-existing.
Mhm. Okay, and then a question about the garage expansion. It's going to a 3-car garage, but it is quote said that it will be used for 2 cars, and then the third bay will be basically a shed type unit. What's to prevent it from being a 3-car garage in the future?
Well, they'd be inviting an enforcement order if they were to enlarge the driveway, but I don't know, people have stuff, and it's if they really want 2 cars for 2 garage bays for cars and then room for stuff, what they have the third bay for, and it's going to be built with not a driveway leading up to it.
But it has the proposed stone surface going in the front door, and I mean, we all know that you can drive on stone surfaces.
Well, it's 7 feet wide, so you can walk, you can push mowers and things, but it doesn't have a stone surface that you can drive on into the garage. It's this stone surface like parallel to the front of the garage.
Okay, so they're just they want the 3 bays instead of 2.5 bays or something like that.
Yes.
So there's really nothing to stop future owners from turning that into anything else. Okay, well,
other than violating your bylaws.
Yeah. Something to think about. Okay, that's really it for now. Thanks.
But I just point that area is in a zone B, so they could, with more mitigation, they or next owners could enlarge the driveway with proper mitigation.
And proper permitting and all that stuff.
Yep.
Okay, well, I look forward to the emailed version of the next plan so that I can see all the colors. And
That's up to your staff to distribute it.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, Tom.
All right, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Tom for the presentation. Surprising how complicated a site and a small change can be sometimes. But correcting for owners' behavior also. So now I think I have it figured out, so I can take a look at it again. But thank you for that.
Betsy.
Hi, Tom. I don't have a problem with the cryptomeria or some of the other non-native trees. I think you're going to cause more damage to the site by yanking all those trees out and putting different ones in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd like you to consider, well, we'll hear what other people say, but when you reconsider, I'd reconsider, and I agree that they act as a windbreak also for the area. And, they're kind of established.
Right.
And I kind of hate ripping stuff out and then putting in a 2-inch tree that's going to take our lifetimes to serve the same ecosystem functions. And I'll also point out, and I'm sure the commission remembers, that we allowed arborvitae. We allowed people had arborvitae in a row, and they had to plant. They were going to plant something from into the buffer area, but they wanted to have the same row of trees, so it all looked the same, and we allowed them to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, not my idea really to take them out.
Oh, I'd rather have you not take them out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We'll see how that goes.
We'll reevaluate that, Betsy.
Yeah, it's playing an important role now that is not going to come back for 40 years.
Yeah.
And this one I can't say is probably lots of fun for you. Some projects are kind of challenging and fun. I don't know that this one.
This one's challenging. I'll stop there.
Yeah. But keep going. You're doing a good job, Tom.
Yeah, the old college try. Yeah.
College try. That's all, Jamie. Thanks.
Yeah. Courtney.
Actually, I, as always, agree with Betsy. I think there's no need to take those trees out there. They're well established. I understand that Leyland cypress aren't necessarily native, but they're there and they're established. They perform a function. They are habitat. And I think you just work with something else. So I think you go back to your owner with a sense of the commission that they should stay. No other comments.
Thank you. Tom, I think you've done a great job. I mean, this is a very complex plan, so sorry you got more to do, but I think it looks pretty good. I agree with previous comments, so I'm not going to repeat them. Kevin.
I would second that, Mr. Chairman, and I would more than emphasize that it makes me grateful that I'm sitting here and not in Tom's seat.
You can borrow it for a moment if you want. I want to try.
That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat comment section. I have one more question for Tom regarding the plan. Tom,
Yeah.
you want us to print out the large scale plans in color and distribute them for the board for you?
No.
Okay.
No, I was suggesting emailing.
Okay, I'll email them to the board, but
The plan that I send to you, well, we send two sometimes. The stamps plan only has the stamp in color, but I sometimes print like the ones I just showed now. I print directly from AutoCAD, and that has all the color. And so that one, would be helpful to email to people if they want to on a complicated one like this.
okay, we'll talk
has
about
everything
it,
in
Tom.
color.
We'll talk
Is
about
that?
it. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, Tom, you have a request for us?
I request to meet with the staff.
Tom, when do you want your continuance date? You want to hold that March 29th since you're coming back for Pinecrest Beach Drive anyway?
I'll be back anyway, sure.
29th, it looks good to me.
Okay. But I will have to meet on both of these with you guys either later this week or early next week.
Yes.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to March 29th, so we have a two-act bunker night, or maybe more.
Maybe
Bird.
more.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until March 29th. If there's nothing further. All right. We're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks eye.
Melissa,
Cartel guy.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 29th. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're
I'll
not
stay
going too
on.
far. Yeah. All right, next up, 190 Associates Road Realty Trust, 190 Associates Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to replace a stone walkway and terrace in the same footprint. Install a fence, construct a patio and terrace with stepping stones, and to install restoration plantings. And I have the quorum excludes Maury and Melissa. Alyssa agrees, so it's official. All right,
Okay,
Jen,
am I on?
you're up, sir.
I'm up. For the record on this hearing, I'm Tom Bunker of BSS Design. I'll show you my plan. Oops. There it is. Last week, 2 weeks ago. Whenever we were here, it was just last week, yeah.
Last week.
We were here in the main, talked about a few things, and the main main concern was to move the fence to the house side of the mitigation planting, the house side of all this vegetation here. And that's what I've done. We have a gate in it here for access to care for the mitigation plants, and still an access gate here to care for this side of the mitigation plants. Staff report mentioned, said they want to see the 18 square feet, and I have that in here. Little thumbnail sliver moon of mitigation, but it's on the away side of the fence from the house right here. So I think that's it. Just to show that fence and that bit of mitigation was for this heat pump right here, which is 6 square feet. So I have that in there. Take it down and take any questions.
Thanks, Tom. Jen?
Only that, the board's gonna have to decide about the mesh fence in the V zone. That's it, but thank you for moving that fence to the landward side of that mitigation plantings, Tom.
If I may address the fence, I should have when I talk about the staff comments. Questioning a fence in a V zone. Of course, this is a wire mesh fence. I think it has like four inch mesh on it. I think that's on the plan here. Let me see it. No, sorry. Inch and a quarter mesh. I was wrong. Inch and a quarter mesh. But I think being on the landward side of all that vegetation, waves moving through there have a lot of vegetation to get through before it gets to the fence. And I think too, if it clogs up, if vegetation does break through free, hit that fence, being on metal posts, I think they'll just bend over flat on the ground and not break apart the way a wooden board fence would. So, you know, in my opinion, I think in this location where frankly, the fence is somewhat protected by the seaward vegetation, I think it's not the problem that a wooden board fence would pose in a velocity zone.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Ms. Bergeron.
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay. Tom, what's the purpose of the fence?
They have a child that needs, I don't want to get into, I don't know the specifics of it, but a child that needs containment.
That's fine. You may have already said that. I'm sorry if you did. Thank you.
I don't think I did, no.
All right, Kevin?
I'm fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Steve?
No additional questions. Thanks for readjusting.
Thank you. Betsy?
I'm fine too. Thank you.
All right, Courtney?
Me too, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Gladfelter.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close this hearing. If there's nothing further. All right, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you all.
Night,
Good night.
Tom.
Night, Tom.
Thank you. All right. Next up is requests for an extension. John and Deborah Gillespie, 39 Inkberry Lane, North Falmouth, Mass.
Yes,
Jen?
Mr. Chairman, staff is recommending a 1-year extension on this. The extension request did come in late, unfortunately, but the project's already started. It's in the middle of being constructed, and unfortunately, the contractor kind of just lost track of the permit when the permit was going to expire. Usually we like to see those and require those to be in 30 days prior to. But as I said, this project is currently being constructed. So let's just, staff just feels it's best to just keep the process moving along.
Okay.
Bird, I'll move to grant a 1-year extension.
Carla Hawk, second.
All right. So we have a motion and a second to grant a 1-year extension. Any questions or comments? All right. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
Brian, aye.
Maury?
Carla Hawk's aye.
Melissa? I don't see her. All right. Steve?
Pat and I.
All right. We have granted a 1-year extension. Thank you. Next up are vote orders of conditions. Now, Alyssa, I have the quorum as Maury and Melissa are not on any of these. You concur? Checking.
I concur. I don't recognize any of them, so,
Yeah.
but I could just be my
I agree, Jamie.
prefrontal cortex.
Okay. All right.
We
I just
release you,
don't want guys-
ladies.
guys to hang
Thank you.
around
Good night, all.
Unnecessarily.
Night, Maury. Night, Melissa.
Good night, everyone. See you next
Night,
week.
Maureen. Night,
Thank you,
Melissa.
guys.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, again, vote orders of conditions. First up, Falmouth Yacht Club, Inc., 0 Clinton Avenue, Lot H, Falmouth, Mass.
1 second, Jamie, sorry.
Yep.
So this is just beach nourishment and maintenance. There's no time of year restriction in this area. There was a time of year restriction when they can do the maintenance work on the old order, so we'll just mimic the old order on this one. Okay?
The only note I have is no mechanical digging.
Yep. Oh, and they can't remove the cobbles from the beach.
Right, yeah, yeah.
Or replay or relocate the cobbles, let's put it that way.
I think they mentioned that, but you should reinforce it.
Yes, relocation, not removal, no relocation of cobbles. Or removal.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed with
Bird,
all the
second.
normal beach conditions.
Bird second.
Anybody have anything else they want to see?
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to grant an order of conditions. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up. Joseph R. Shaker, Eldridge Drive 8 LLC. Number 8 Eldridge Drive, Falmouth, Mass. And Steve, I have you not on this particular quorum.
I think that's right, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Excuse me.
This is the bank restoration project. I think they addressed most of our concerns. The only thing we had was Alyssa, was that out on the bottom that needs to be removed?
Yes, Raul added that to the plan.
Okay, perfect. We'll reinforce that as well.
Was there an issue about trees?
They also
this?
added one proposed tupelo in the general area of the other 3. They marked the sapling that was proposed to be removed, and they did add a split rail fence.
Okay. Good. So I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, anybody else wants to see in there? All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
And that's the quorum. It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Joseph Mirzola, trustee, Joseph G. Mirzola Revocable Trust, 2018. 15 Moses Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes,
And Steve is back in the quorum. All right, done.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is Moses Road. Raise, reconstruct, velocity zone. They took out the fence. They took out the P-stone. The only remaining issue that staff is kind of uncomfortable with was the creation of that little cubby when we asked them to reduce the storage. So by reducing the storage, all they did was they still have that solid wall, but they just kind of created a cubby, which I have some concerns that it may unfortunately revert to being used as storage, which is what we were trying to reduce. So that's the staff's concern with that redesign there.
May I address that?
Yeah, sure. I'm just saying.
Well, agree with everything you said, but I went and looked at the plan afterwards.
Okay.
A little closer from a building standpoint, because what happens is they did what we asked by reducing the storage and everything, get under 200 square feet. So I give them points for that. The problem, it leaves part of the way going up exposed, if you will. So they would have to frame around that. They would have to be weather tight. The building code would call for that. So kind of, sort of, it's going to get enclosed by default. If that makes any sense. Because they have to close off that part of the landing and the stairway. I mean, they have to. Now, it doesn't mean they have to extend that exterior wall. Also understand why they're doing that. So I don't know if that, does that now make it 200 square feet of enclosed space? But I just wanted to throw out there that I looked at the architecturals and that again, I don't mean to be repetitive, but a portion of that stairway going up and the landing are now going to be exposed. That would have to be closed off anyway, if that makes any sense. Alyssa, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just going off that, I think it begs the question as that middle area doesn't have to be the area of reduced square footage. It's the part closest to the street or the part closest to the deck could be the area reduced if that middle component is so intricate. So I think that's what we were trying to mention the last hearing. And from what I understood, it came from an aesthetics perspective. I'm not sure if in your construction background, if you could see if one area is less intricate than the other, where that lack of storage space would be better served. Yeah.
Well, it's too late in the game for us to, and not that we should be designing their project anyway, but if they move that storage area, trying to get my bearings, east, so that it would include that portion of the stairway, would they find that acceptable? And that would also keep that exterior wall contiguous.
Sure.
Again, I don't know that we can do that at this point.
No, I'm just curious if when you were looking at it, if you noticed if we could condition it be shifted, for example, is that enough? But if it's something that's worth review, then I guess not. Thank you.
Well, I think it would, because it would kind of sort of steal some space from the water end, let's say, and slide that storage down to include that piece of the stairway. I just don't know if we're getting into a point where we're designing the project for them. I don't know how you would verbalize that.
That's what I'm trying to think, is how do I phrase that, Mr. Chairman?
So
can't you say they have to come back with only 200 square feet in the velocity zone, and they can choose however they want to redesign that?
Yeah. I just, I know we want to keep it under the 200 square feet. And, one way to do that is to slide that storage space towards the entry vestibule. I don't think it's practical to take any space out of the entry vestibule. That's not particularly large,
Yeah.
But I don't think we should be designing their.
It's not that I
They
want to
should
design
design
it. I'm trying to think of, I understand what they're saying. They're kind of sort of doing what we asked by reducing the storage space, but it leaves that stairway, upper part of the stairway hanging in the breeze.
Mr. Chairman, do you mind if I share my screen and I need to ask you a question on how to verbalize that?
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, do you see the architectural?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
can you make it bigger? Thank you.
Yeah, so
you look at the dotted line first in that middle area.
this,
Part of the stairway that's gonna, goes to the second floor.
Yeah.
But it kind of hangs in the breeze, so that's gonna have to be boxed off. You know, they're not gonna be able to leave that unprotected.
so when you say that, Mr. Chairman, I need clarification. Does that mean they're gonna have to put a wall here? And that it'll just be like.
No,
a
but what I'm
void
saying is that
space?
dotted line has to be enclosed.
But wouldn't
So
that be enclosed on the second floor?
Well, halfway, because it's,
Oh, it's going up.
yes, you're going up to a landing, then you're turning 90 degrees and you're going up, whatever it is, 4 or 5 more risers. So, and by default, that would have to be closed off. Now, again, at the risk of sounding like I'm redesigning their project, they take that storage area and slide it down to the entry vestibule.
Mhm.
Yeah, and now include that stairway. It covers the stairway and it keeps it all under the 200 square feet. The reason they wouldn't want to do that is because it reduces their amount of storage because of the stairway.
Right.
But at the risk of sounding awful, that's not really our problem. So I would say if you're gonna, I know what you're saying, that's basically gonna become storage. And I don't disagree with that. All I'm saying is, I'm kind of okay with it the way it is. And I don't really have a problem with that wall being going all the way down. I'm not saying you should agree with me. I'm just saying that's my view. But I wanted to point out that stairway is, can't be left exposed.
So this is the solid wall that they were worried about aesthetically. So if we had them shift this down and then make the storage this way,
Correct.
they would have to put some sort of
Well, there's still gonna be structure there.
here,
Yes.
because this would be open now.
Correct. So that would solve our problem that they're only getting 200 square feet. But
Yeah,
it takes away from their concern about having, a respectable amount of storage space.
okay. Let me know what you want me to do.
Well, my 2 cents is I'm fine with it the way it is. Just know that stairway, when you go ultimately to look at it, you're gonna see it boxed off. It has to be. Okay, so see what everybody else thinks, Courtney.
What's the elevation of the landing?
I don't think it's on there.
I don't have an elevation, Courtney.
So one solution is that they enclose, that it's open below the landing and it's enclosed above. Granted, that's still below the floodplain, but it leaves it open. Then they could leave their building, their storage area the same.
Yes, and I think that's what they were trying to communicate.
I mean,
But that's where
I'd
that-
be okay. I'd be okay with that as long as I would assume that landing's about 7 or 8 feet up, right? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, I think it's a little less than that, but you're right. You're on, but that just means that exterior wall, at least to the stairway point, has to stay kind of intact.
No, it would have to be open, but either that or they slide their, or as Betsy says, it's up to them to figure it out. The alternative is they slide their storage area down to include the landing area, the step, and then they just lose some headroom there. But I don't think you can, I would not approve enclosing the space below the bottom underside of the landing.
And they're not proposing that. What Jen is saying is that, it all looks like, at some point they're gonna put a door on the face of that.
Or just
Or
use
could.
it for storage.
Right, even if
Yeah.
it remains open. Right, yeah, but the whole rest of the space is open too, so it's gonna be kayaks and stuff under there, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Would they do
That's
that?
all right. so Anybody else have an opinion on that?
So if we ask them to slide it, are we also gonna ask them to shorten that exterior wall in that area? Because that was one of the property owners' concerns, that it wasn't gonna look aesthetically pleasing if the exterior wall is shortened on the ground level at grade, and then it's up like that.
Well, what I remember is his real concern was the break in that exterior wall, not so much, you know. Steve, you had your hand up?
That's the way I recalled it. I can live with it like it is, but I can understand everyone's points and don't want to create a precedent, but we got one across the street anyway.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
I can live with it the way it is too.
All right.
Fine.
Okay.
All right. So did we have anything else?
No, they addressed everything else. It was just that weird little cubby space.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Patton second.
All right. So my understanding is what we're voting with the motion of the second is to accept it the way it's drawn.
That's
And
my
then they've-
understanding.
They've addressed all the other
Yes.
issues. So that's
Yes.
okay. Just so we're clear on what we're voting on. All right. Motion is second. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, no.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is, the vote is 4-1, so we have issued an order of conditions. All right, next up, John T. Malloy, 119 Silver Beach Avenue, Falmouth, Mass.
Raising and reconstruct, adding mitigation and doing some restoration of the buffer zone to the wetland area that was unpermitted. There was some unpermitted clearing, I think, by a prior owner, and also more recently, correct, Alyssa? What was the latest plan, like from 15 or 18?
Yeah, I think it was just a couple years ago, maybe starting in 18, 19. It's in the staff report somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say they probably have to restore before we sign off on a building permit. The only problem with that is the how to get the water in there to water the plants, but that they can bring in a water truck to do it. I don't know how the board feels. Also, should we require a root barrier in this area too? Alyssa, what's the invasives looking like? I mean, they're right next to the knotweed area, so
All right.
I'm assuming this is gonna require a root barrier as well.
Yeah, believe it or not, the knotweed is mostly on the neighbor's property. It is migrating a bit. I don't know if it's being maintained in that that lawn line helped. Certainly couldn't hurt. There's a lot of Phragmites back there too that could benefit from the barrier.
Okay, we'll put a root barrier in. At least in that corner area. Maybe we don't need it so much towards the road, but maybe in the back towards where all the frag is.
Yeah, and my only comment, Jen, just when it comes to requiring restoration prior to all else, I do know that there's an insurance factor for their rebuild. I don't know what that entails. Maybe they have to start soon. I'm not quite sure, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, so maybe we'll just have them plant immediately after construction then.
Yeah, maybe we can get some more details, but just that may not be feasible for them financially and everything.
Okay. All right.
Anything anybody else wants to see in there?
Thank you.
All right.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
At night.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up. Michael Ryan, 140 Associates Road, West Falmouth, Mass.
This was Mike Borselli and Angela Tanner's project, and I think we finally got to a point where we understand the plan. Well, let me rephrase that. Alyssa understands the plan. And Alyssa and Angela understand it, not quite sure about the rest of us, but I think we got to a point where this is as good as it's gonna get, and we're accounting for everything that's being replaced. We're giving their an area of optional planting. So I mean, they did a good job.
Yeah, they came back with.
There was a lot of work on both sides that went into that plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's good. It ended up what we were kind of aiming towards during the meeting.
Correct.
So.
All right. So anything special anybody wants in there? All right.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. If there's nothing further. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, whoops, put that away too fast. Vote amended order of conditions. First up, Joy Kaplan, 2003 Revocable Trust, 41 Bywater Court, Falmouth, Mass.
They're adding a second floor addition, a proposed reconstructed entryway, window seat, some dry wells, and they're changing around the deck on the top and adding a additional mitigation plantings. So I don't think there's anything special we have to add into those.
I wouldn't think so. Anybody have anything they want to see in there? All right.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Issue an order of amended order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
And I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an amended order of conditions. Actually, it's not an amended order, right?
Yeah,
Order of conditions. Yeah, it is. Okay.
it is an amended order.
Okay. Next up, Karen and David Howe, 0 Vineyard Street, Falmouth, Mass.
This is the beach nourishment and beach maintenance to kind of match the final order that was issued by the Department of Environmental Protection. That was the, can't remember if they appealed our order or if it was a neighbor's appeal. It was a appeal. Right. And so final order allowing more nourishment than you originally applied. We're changing or allowing them to do, not requiring them, excuse me, to do a ground instrument survey after the nourishment, but they're able to do either a drone survey or the modified Embry method. And we are going to locally, under our bylaw order, add a time of year restriction from April to August to protect the plover and tern population that has established a territory over at 24 Willis. When this project first came across our desks, we didn't know the birds were over there. We discovered them in the course of permitting the 24 Willis property. This has been going through an appeal for a couple of years, so we're adding the time of year restriction because the plovers are there. And so
But I have a note that we would accept the monitor.
we would accept the monitor.
I have a note that says that we would accept monitoring, somebody to watch the plovers.
Yes, so what happens when there's a time of year restriction for plovers, especially when it comes to beach nourishment, is there's very specific language that comes out of natural heritage, which says the activities can occur if if a qualified shorebird monitor qualified under natural heritage is on site, Alyssa will correct me, 24 or 48 hours prior to nourishment activities, doesn't see any evidence of courting, scratching, birds, nesting, anything like that, then they can go and do the site. So it's not like they can't do it, they just have to do it with a monitor.
Yeah, that's all I was trying to clarify.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Just clarifying that.
Yep. Okay.
Did a
Anything
good
else?
job. Jen did a good job answering the question from their lawyer about that.
All
So
right,
can we
anything
close
else?
this hearing? Can we issue an order of conditions as discussed and amended and rediscussed and re-amended?
Is that your motion, Steve?
It is.
Then I'll second it.
Thank you for that. All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an amended order of conditions. If there's nothing else. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an amended order of conditions. Last motion.
Nope, I have one more question.
Oh,
Did everybody receive their conflict of interest training email?
I
yeah,
didn't.
like 6 times
Yes.
in one day.
I did.
I didn't.
8
I didn't
copies,
get
I
it.
think, so far.
Okay, wait a
I've
minute.
changed my password twice already.
So Steve, was that a yes, you did, or a no?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Betsy,
Didn't know it
you
was from
didn't?
you.
Okay. Betsy didn't. Courtney, did you?
Yeah, I got it and I'm about halfway through the course.
Okay, Melissa, yes, no? Maury, are you still with us? I'll double check with you tomorrow. Kevin, we already got yours. And Jamie, yes, no?
Yes.
All right, so Betsy, I'll get one to you. And if everybody could, when you print out your certificates, bring them down to us or email them to us, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
Jen, when are we supposed to have it done by?
The 30th, the 31st.
March? Okay.
I think it was
Yeah.
1 month.
Yeah.
I'm with Steve. I changed my password and I still haven't gotten a response to reset my password. So
How come I didn't get one?
I don't know, Betsy. I'll find out. I got you covered, Bets. Don't worry. I'll get it to you.
Okay,
You might have done one for CPC or somebody else, and they actually have a database.
I haven't done one for years.
Oh, I just did one for the Housing Authority.
Mm.
Cool. All right. We'll make sure you got one, Bets, and thanks, guys.
Make a motion to adjourn, Patton.
Bird, second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Hard guy.
Patton, aye.
It is almost unanimous. We are adjourned, except Maury's going to stay in the meeting.